There we go. Hello. Tomorrow? No. I'll open the arc for Elena, but you don't have to worry about it. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Did Allie run away after her introduction? Okay. Well, I forgot my guitar, so we're good. So I'm so excited to be back with you for this Shabbat. I spent a Shabbat away actually working with a congregation in Beaufort, South Carolina last week as they're getting ready to celebrate a big milestone in their history. And I'm now especially excited to be back this weekend as we are celebrating with Eli and his family as Eli becomes bar mitzvah officially tomorrow, but he's going to help lead the majority of the service this evening. And before we begin, I want to say a few things. First thing is, as you can see, there is a screen on the bima, which has all of, the prayers that we'll be doing together this evening. So if your method of reading this evening of our prayers is the screen, please feel free to use that. It will have everything that we're doing, including the page numbers on it. If there's something that you find on the screen that you'd like to use or to read about more, you can find our prayer books, Mishkan Tefillah, the blue books, the dark blue books, they should be kind of scattered around in the pews, either in the back of the pews or underneath your seats there are books. And if you'd prefer to use the prayer books, we'll be announcing pages, either Eli or I will be announcing page numbers throughout the service so that everyone's able to access the service in the best way possible. And that goes also for everyone on Zoom. You have the prayers through the slideshow, which is showing for all of you. I also want to say that as we go through the service and I give the cues to please rise and please be seated, I'm inviting you to rise either in body or in spirit as everyone is comfortable. So please, as you're comfortable, follow the cue as you see fit. And lastly, before we begin officially, I want to say, before we begin, how proud I am of Eli for all of the hard work that I know he has put in to preparing for this. It takes a long time to learn how to lead a service and to do it with the kind of assurance and confidence that I know Eli is going to bring to the bema next to me in a moment. And it's just going to be good. I'm so excited to celebrate with you and your family. So we're going to begin, assuming I can get everything to work properly, on page 126 as we join together. Another note about our prayer book, I encourage everyone, and it's our custom here, to read together, to sing together, to participate fully together. So as you're comfortable, we'll read and sing together. There's no part of the service where I'm leading and you're listening. Please participate, and we'll join together in community in that way. So page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue singing Hine Matov on page 128, how good it is for all of us to be together. Continue singing together songs of welcoming Shabbat, L'chu Niranana, on page 130. These words from Psalms give thanks for the gift of the beauty of all creation. L'chu Niranana, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Lado. continue welcoming Shabbat with the poem Lecha Dodi on page 138. If you're looking in your prayer books at page 138, also one note, if you have the prayer book that's kind of a thinner volume which has two sets of page numbers, we're looking at the page numbers with the blue brackets. Page 138, we're going to be joining together in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. We'll be joining together on the screen as it's written up there. And as we reach the final verse, Boi v'shalom, we'll stand to face the entryway to welcome Shabbat like a bride or a queen. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor. One more song of welcome on page 142. We welcome Shabbat by welcoming the ministering angels, the angels of peace. Hopefully, they will bring with them the sense of Shabbat restfulness and peace that I know I certainly long for, and that we all look for on Shabbat to give us this moment of rest. Shalom Aleichem, page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nil Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nil Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shuvchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I would like to invite Ali and Josh and Eli and Nate to join me on the bima as we kindle the Shabbat candles on page 120. Yeah. I know someone else too. Or you would
No, it's not
oh,
your parents.
you want to invite your parents up? Could Allie's parents please join
And
me?
Josh's parents.
And Josh's parents, please.
I think it's nice that we'll all do it together.
Yeah.
The more the merrier. What? I don't know. Yeah, you want to hold both of us?
Amen. Thank you. Eli, where'd you go? Come back up. You gotta stay up here. We're going to continue on page 144 as we transition to the Shema and her blessings with the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. You ready? Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala Uvizman kariv Ve'imeru amen Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'alam ulam me'almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach ve'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekedusha prichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma ve'imeru amen.
We'll continue on page 146. Please rise. We'll continue on page 148.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Oreyon balayla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreyon balayla, golel or mipnei choshech, velo mipnei choshech. בחושך, בחושך מבני אור.
We'll continue on page 151 from the bottom. Wisdom and wonder,
Passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiness of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Please rise for the Shema on page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We'll continue on page 157 at the top. Standing on the
Departed shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
We'll continue on page 158. 160.
Continue with Hashki Venu, prayer for God's sheltering presence to be with us this evening and every evening. Hashki Venu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashki Venu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashki Venu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim.
We'll continue on page 162.
Mishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise. We'll begin on page 164 and continue on even numbered pages.
Ready?
Yeah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu V'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak,
Elohei Yaakov,
Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasei Avot V'Imahot, Geulah Lifnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav LeHoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Tzomech Noflim Verofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Mido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman Atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yahalelucha Selah. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open
our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
We'll continue on page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will.
You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch Atah Adonai, She'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod.
We'll continue on page 177. O God of goodness, we give
thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch Atah Adonai, L'cha na'eh lehodot.
We'll continue on page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lecho hashalom. Ki ata Melech Adon, Lecho HaShalom. sim leolam. So, where I grew up, we didn't applaud at synagogue, but we did when we liked something or someone did something really well. We went like this, which is sign language for applauding. We're going to take a moment for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi behegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vegoali Yehiyu leratzon imrefi behegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vegoali We take a moment in our service to hold in our hearts those who are in need of a prayer of healing. If there is someone who you're thinking of who is in need of healing, whether it's of body, of mind, or of spirit, and you are on Zoom, please feel free to use the chat and type their name in. I'll read their name aloud in a moment. If you're in the sanctuary, as I look your way, please feel free to say the names of your loved ones aloud as I look your way.
Esther Greenville, Lauren Trichek, Bart Skyville, Danny Haynes, and Henriette Gray.
Williams family, Julie Vincent, Lori Thompson, Patrick Adamson, and Michael Reeves.
Dawn Mill and Linda Unger. And for all of our loved ones who are in need of a prayer of healing, we say, Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll join together on page 371 as we join in singing Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I wasn't here last week, so what I shared last week, I want to share again with you, because after I heard Eli's Devar Torah yesterday, which you all will hear tomorrow, I kind of developed a two-part thing. So if you want to hear the conclusion, you have to come back tomorrow morning. Last week's Torah portion and this week's Torah portion are often read together. Last week's Torah portion is Parshat Bahar, which means on the mountain, and this week's Torah portion is Bechukotai. And last week's Torah portion is basically one chapter of the Torah, towards the end of the book of Leviticus, and it contains all of the laws of what are called Shemitah, the laws of letting the land rest, and the laws of Yovel, which we often call Jubilee. And Jubilee has kind of become an English word, even though it doesn't really mean what the Bible makes it or wants it to mean. The word Jubilee is actually defined in Hebrew in last week's Torah portion, where it says in the Torah, V'kidashtem et shanat hachamishim shana ukratem deror ba'aretz l'chol yoshveha, which we all know as the famous line that appears on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, which says, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants thereof." And before I keep going, I'm going to ask you, what does liberty mean? What does that word mean? Because it's become such a part of our culture, for any one person to have one definition of it, it doesn't really work today. So what does liberty mean? And you can answer me. Freedom.
Freedom with responsibility.
Freedom with responsibility. The right to do, I like that, the right to do the right thing. So there's actually very little agreement, just like everything else in Jewish tradition, on what this word, the Hebrew word that is translated as liberty, is dror. Not like a drawer that you pull out, but dror, D-R-O-R, which in Hebrew is dror. You say it from the back of your throat. In any case, the word dror has a really kind of unknown origin in Hebrew. Even Hebrew linguistic scholars try to link this word to other ancient Semitic languages because the usages in the Hebrew Bible are so obscure from one to the next that there's not often a clear understanding of what this word means. So the fact that in this context it means liberty or freedom or however we want to kind of define it becomes interesting to the rabbis, and it's one of the sources of a lot of ideas. And so one of my favorite interpretations comes from Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, who says, excuse me, that in the book of Isaiah, one of the times where the word dror is used, it's used to denote a returning of captives from a situation where they've been captured. In the book of Ezekiel, it means specifically the return of property to its original owner. And both of those meanings, by the way, are kind of wrapped up in what we mean here by liberty in this past week's Torah portion. In other places, though, the word dror refers not to like a concept or a legal structure, but it actually refers to a particular kind of bird. A dror is the kind of bird that can't be tamed no matter what a human does to it. It doesn't matter if you put the bird in a cage. It doesn't matter what kind of circumstances happen to this bird. This bird always maintains its kind of wild, natural sensibilities. And so when you put these ideas together, the idea that this word dror, in the context of returning land, in the context of freeing captives, like literally making somebody free from a burden, and you put that together with this idea of a bird that is totally in its natural state, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch takes these concepts, puts them together, and says that what we mean by dror in the context of this week or this last week's Torah portion is dror is the idea that people in positions of power remove all systemic obstacles from people in their society which prevent them from experiencing basic human dignity. So when we think about the concept of Shemitah, the concept of Shemitah in its essence is to let the land rest. That includes in the Jubilee year also returning land to its original owner, or in the context of the story of the ancient Israelites, returning family land to people who would have sold it or who would have given it away as a means of trying to create self-sufficiency in other ways rather than relying on their own land, returning that land. The Shemitah year also talks about freeing slaves who have become slaves out of a need to acquire debt. If you owe somebody something and then are required, rather than paying them back in physical currency or supplies or goods or bartering, you're bartering your time and you become somebody's slave. The Shemitah year cancels the debt that would have caused that, and the slaves in those situations are meant to go free. But the Jubilee year, the 50th year, the year of liberty, is a year that cancels all kinds of slavery no matter the cause. And so Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch's idea, the idea that we are responsible in this particular context to remove any sort of societal barriers from a person to experience a natural state of human dignity, is a huge idea, and it's something that I think goes even beyond the Jubilee year. The fact of the matter is that the rabbis believed that these kinds of laws in the Torah, by and large, are put there not in order to celebrate a 50th year. They're put there to state an ideal that the rabbis believed that human beings were not willing to, on their best day, to enact on a regular basis. Human beings are not willing on a regular basis to do their part, to ensure that other human beings don't have barriers to experiencing dignity in front of them on a regular basis. When you take these things and the rabbis and the Torah are talking about what basically equates to an entire economic reset every 50 years, commentators today, including Ellie Gettinger, who is the director of digital learning at JTS, who I listened to a podcast earlier this week, talks about how when we're thinking about what all of this means in the context of this week's Torah portion, Parshat Bechukotai, largely deals with experiencing blessings in the first part and curses in the latter part. And she says that when we're thinking about our lives in the context of these two, thank you, you're very kind. When we're thinking about these two parshiot together, these two Torah portions together, that we need to, think about our responsibility in our everyday lives and what kind of things that we experience on a regular basis that are actually causes of barriers to people experiencing dignity. And she says that one of the most significant causes of our willingness to allow people to experience indignity is our own blessing. when we're experiencing wealth, when we experience good things in our lives, the Torah in so many places is actually opposed to the basic concept of human comfort for people who are in positions of power. People who have power, people who have wealth, people who live with dignity regularly find themselves so comfortable that they're not willing to stand up for people who are not in those situations. And that it takes sometimes a big giant economic reset button to force people into that mindset. But the rabbis tell us not to wait, that it's something that we are obligated to do all of the time. If we just need to take the right steps to notice our own privilege in these situations and act to make the world around us and to bring out the ability to bring people into the light, into a world where they experience justice and wholeness and dignity for themselves. That's the world that this Torah portion and last week's Torah portion are pushing for. I have a lot more to say about it tomorrow. Maybe not so much because I want to let Eli say more about it than me. But there's my introduction. You have to come back tomorrow. Shabbat shalom. We're going to continue with Aleinu, as I invite everyone to please rise. We'll turn to page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gedula l'yamser breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo hinsam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kefol hamonam, anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to hold in our hearts our loved ones who have come before us and are no longer with us. We acknowledge first those for whom we are in Shloshim within 30 days of their passing, Julie Van Dyke and Jonathan Hoffman. We also hold in our hearts those for whom the Shabbat and the previous week are a yahrzeit or an anniversary of their passing. Gertrude Rubenstein, Rose Weiss, Jerry Kramer, Dr. Mordechai Nachman, Ann Ross, Manuel Rothschild, Dr. David Schlein, Rose Okun, Alexander Harris, Rose, and Ann Cohen. If there are loved ones you're holding in your hearts in loving memory on Zoom and you'd like to share their name in the chat, I'll read them aloud in a moment. And again, as I look your way in the sanctuary, if you have a name you'd like to share, please, as I look your way, please do.
All those lost to gun violence in the last few weeks.
Sharon Tipaldi and Charles Norman. For our loved ones who came before us, who we hold in our hearts in loving memory, we say Zichronam Livracha, may their memories always be a blessing. As we rise together, we'll turn to page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma difra cherutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mivarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei d'kedusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbechata b'nechemata, da'miran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all people Israel and all people of the world. And may God send comfort to all those who are in mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. I think the most important announcement I have is that we're going to have a continuation of our celebration tomorrow morning with Eli and his family at 10 o'clock. I'm very excited. I know Eli's very excited. And the next announcement that I have is June 4th, which is happens to be the holiday of Shavuot. The holiday of Shavuot is known for many things in Jewish tradition, including being the holiday where we celebrate receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. It also happens to be a holiday for a variety of reasons where we're supposed to eat dairy food. So we have a special program, which is, I believe, generously sponsored by PJ Library, though they didn't actually put their picture on the slide. It's going to be June 4th from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. at Happy Cow Creamery. We'll have just kind of a day at the farm and experience some cool things and have ice cream and just fun, good fun together. Tickets are $5, and I believe you can find the information to register or pay for your ticket on our website. Our new member Shabbat, we have, because of COVID, not actually celebrated a new member Shabbat since July of 2019. So since then, I should say, the Temple of Israel has, I believe, 30 new families who have joined our congregation despite COVID, despite everything else, in a world where people are choosing less often to join communities, religious communities in particular. I feel very blessed that we have this kind of growth happening here in Greenville. So it's going to be just a pretty fantastic evening in general. But the choir will be singing, and Madison, who's sitting in the back, is going to be celebrating her becoming bat mitzvah on the 13th anniversary of when she should have celebrated. So it's going to be just a fun evening, and we're going to be welcoming our new members officially. Even if you've been here for 2.5 years, we are still formally welcoming you to the congregation. All right. And last but certainly not least, we'll be holding a blood drive. Congregation Beth Israel, the synagogue downtown, is going to be hosting on June 26th from 9:30 to 1:30. You have to make an appointment. Again, the link to make an appointment is on either in our e-news or you can find it on our website. There is a sponsor code that if you use the sponsor code when you register to donate blood, the blood connection will actually donate $20 to the temple for each person who does this. That's not why we should be doing this, but it certainly is an added bonus. You get to do a mitzvah by donating blood, and then it's also a mitzvah in that they donate money to the temple for doing it. So donors are not allowed to bring their children into the mobile center. So don't bring your kids, but you should come. All right. I'm going to invite all of our pre-bar and bat mitzvah children, which still includes Eli, for one more day, or I should say like 15 more hours, to join me on the bima as we say Kiddush and Motzi. There is more juice that we can get if we don't have enough for everybody. It looks like, we're going to be too short.
No, I don't need.
All right. Here we go. Actually, you know what? Here. You can hold this. All right. You ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. You can drink your juice. You can drink your juice. Is that it? It should just be juice. Sometimes it's pomegranate juice. All right, and for all of our kids who are up here, if you want to give me your cups, you can.
I'll take some cups.
For our kiddos who are up here, we are going to say a special blessing for all of you. For our children, we say, Yisimech Elohim Kisara, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Yisimcha Elohim Ephraim, Uvachim, Menashe. May you be blessed like the sons of Joseph, like Ephraim and Menashe. We wish for all of our children to feel the blessings of being proud of who they are and always striving to be the best version of themselves as we say these words of blessing from the Torah for all of you. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'ychunecha. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gift of wholeness and peace. We say together, Amen. And then if you want to gather around and help me hold. Let's not go near the fire. But you can come over here. All right, ready? Perfect. We got it. You ready? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together. As our joyful prayer is said, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You take some challah. Maybe you take some to your parents if you feel generous. Thank you before we conclude services to the please don't set your shirt on fire. to the Stone family for I have. That's why I said that. Thank you to the Stone family for an oneg. So after services, we're going to sing Oseh Shalom, and then we're going to head to the social hall next door for some goodies. Please stick around, enjoy each other's company. We're going to sing Oseh Shalom, and that will conclude our service. Oseh Shalom, Bimromam, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimromam, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimromam, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimromam, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru Amen. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov to Eli and your family. I'm excited for tomorrow. Please, next door, enjoy the oneg. Shabbat Shalom.